Christians, if your pastors were completely honest with you about how church works, you'd probably walk away. And that's exactly why they're not telling you the full truth. Pastors are trained not just in theology, but also in how to sell their church. It's a business, and that's not even the worst part. It's a system designed to keep people in line, keep the money flowing in, and to keep you from questioning too much. And I know this because I used to be one of them. I stood on the platform week over week believing that I was doing the work of God. But looking back, I realized how much I kept hidden, sometimes because I was trained to, and sometimes because I didn't even recognize the problems myself. Now, here's the irony. When I was ordained, I actually believed that we were about to fix the world, like we were Batman swooping in to save Gotham. But in reality, it turns out we were more like the Kardashians, busy brand building, thriving on drama, and selling illusions for ratings. So today, we're counting down the top 10 things pastors don't want you to know about church. And trust me, if churchgoers knew these things, a whole lot more pews would be empty. Let's get started. So, number 10, church is a business, not a ministry. Churches love to brand themselves as spiritual homes, places of worship where the focus is on faith, community, worship, and prayer. But behind the scenes, churches are structured more like businesses than sanctuaries. They rely on a steady stream of revenue, they market themselves, and they have clear financial incentives to grow their congregations. The moment money is involved, it stops being a simple place of worship and starts functioning like a corporation with tax exemptions. Pastors may not call themselves CEOs, but they manage their churches like CEOs, overseeing budgets, payroll, building expansions, and even marketing strategies to draw in new members. This isn't to say that every church is a money-hungry empire, but the reality is, without money, churches cannot operate. And that financial dependence shapes every decision they make, from the messages they preach to the programs they fund. Ever notice how the humble pastor's face is plastered on billboards, newsletters, and social media ads? They make Apple's marketing team look reserved. Turns out, if you can't hook new fish, the donation pond goes dry real quick. Let's look at number 9. Your tithes don't go where you think they do. Pastors love to emphasize the importance of tithing, claiming it's a direct act of faith and that the money is used to support the church's mission. But let's be real. Most of your tithe goes towards salaries, maintenance, and operating costs. While some churches do charitable work, the bulk of their funds are spent keeping the organization afloat, covering things like staff salaries, including the pastor's paycheck, which can sometimes be quite significant, but also mortgage or rent for the church building, utilities, maintenance, renovations, and of course, marketing campaigns to attract new members. Meanwhile, very little actually makes its way to the poor and needy. Churches that push tithing the hardest tend to be the ones most focused on sustaining their own institution, not on helping their communities. It's like donating to a charity that promises to save endangered pandas, but 90% of the funds go to panda costumes for the staff and building plush office spaces. Then they hand out 3 granola bars to a homeless guy, snap a picture, and call it outreach. Number 8, most pastors doubt but can't admit it. Believe it or not, many pastors experience doubt about their faith, but they can't afford to be honest about it. If a pastor publicly questions God's existence, the Bible's reliability, or key theological concepts, they risk losing their influence, their job, their congregation, and even their reputation. So instead, they bury their doubts and continue preaching, even if deep down they no longer believe what they're saying. This creates a culture of performance rather than genuine belief, where pastors feel trapped in their roles, unable to leave even if they no longer believe. They might spend years secretly questioning their faith, all while standing in front of a congregation preaching certainty. I can remember late night Google binges myself about fossil evidence and contradictions in scripture, and then waking up Sunday morning to deliver a message on unwavering faith. Talk about living a double life. Number 7, church leadership is a boys' club. Despite the modern push for gender equality, church leadership remains overwhelmingly male-dominated. Many churches still refuse to allow women to serve as pastors or hold leadership positions. Even in churches that claim to be progressive, women often find themselves stuck in subordinate roles, expected to support men rather than lead alongside them. The Bible is often used as justification for this, citing verses about women being submissive or women being seen as the weaker vessel. But let's be honest, This is about maintaining control. Keeping leadership male centered ensures that power stays in the hand of men, preventing challenges to the traditional hierarchy. There's nothing like a progressive church that puts women on the women's committee to decorate, cook, and occasionally read announcements. But heaven forbid they speak from the platform with actual authority. Equal rights? More like equal potluck contributions. Number 6, the church thrives on guilt and fear. Ever wonder why so many church messages focus on sin, judgment, and hell? It's because fear, guilt, and shame are powerful motivators. If people feel like they're constantly failing, they'll keep coming back for forgiveness and guidance. And if they fear punishment, whether in the form of hellfire or social rejection, which is also a form of social coercion, by the way, they'll comply with whatever the church tells them to do. This is why messages about love and grace are often paired with warnings about sin and damnation, warnings about missing the mark. It keeps people emotionally dependent on the church, making them less likely to leave. It's like a soap opera plot device. Keep the audience hooked with a cycle of danger and rescue, sin and salvation, so that they never miss an episode. The only difference is, in church, you're both the guilty sinner and the audience. Number 5, most church growth is just people switching churches. Churches love to brag about growth, but here's the truth. Most new members aren't actually new believers. I've been sounding this alarm for a little while now. They're just Christians moving from one church to another church, and most times they're not even good Christians. But pastors measure success by attendance. But what they don't tell you is that many churches actively recruit from other congregations rather than bringing in people who weren't already believers. They rely on reshuffling the same pool of Christians rather than converting new members. Churches with the best music, entertainment, and social programs tend to win the battle for members. But in reality, very few churches are actually growing the Christian faith. Most are just competing for the same market. They might as well hand out transfer forms at the door, Please tell me about your 7 most recent churches. Number 4, worship music is designed to manipulate you. The emotional high people feel during worship isn't divine. It's a calculated technique. Churches use repetitive lyrics, rising melodies, and atmospheric lighting to create an altered state of mind, making attendees more emotionally receptive to the messaging. Now, this is a form of manipulation designed to make you feel connected to God when it's really just a psychological response to sound, rhythm, and community. Studies have shown that the same emotional responses occur at secular concerts and political rallies. It's not divine intervention, it's human psychology at work. And sure, we called it the Holy Spirit, but if you swapped out the lyrics for R&B love songs, you'd see the same tears, same goosebumps. The difference? No altar call at a Beyonce concert, contrary to popular Christian conspiracy. 3, your pastor has more power over you than you think. Many pastors go beyond spiritual guidance and seek to control your personal decisions, from who you vote for, to who you love, to how you parent. This isn't just advice, it's social pressure disguised as doctrine. Some churches even shun members who step out of line, using ostracization as a means of control. If you challenge the pastor's authority or question a doctrine, you may find yourself quietly pushed out or publicly shamed. It's not just faith, it's a power structure designed to maintain order and compliance. I once tried to post a very neutral comment on a controversial topic, and next thing I knew, I was hauled into several spiritual concern meetings with church leaders. They were more upset about my differing opinion than they would have been if I had robbed a bank. That speaks volumes. Number 2, Christianity survives because of indoctrination. Most believers didn't choose Christianity, they were born into it. Churches know that if kids aren't indoctrinated early, they're far less likely to adopt religious belief later in life. This is why many churches are very glad to support other fantasy and fairy tale characters, because they know it all works together for their good. That's why youth ministries exist, not to teach kids how to think, but to go ahead and tell them what to think. From a young age, children are conditioned to accept religious teachings as fact, discouraging critical thinking about their faith. Without this early reinforcement, Christianity would struggle to sustain itself. Some of my earliest memories are coloring pictures of out of the Bible, such as Noah's Ark, but never quite allowed to ask, so wait, God drowned everybody else? That's kind of extreme, isn't it? They just gave me more crayons and told me to thank God for his mercy. Isn't it beautiful how they love to have us painting as children acts of, well, that. All right. And before we get to number one, if you like what I do and want to show your support, click the like button, subscribe to the channel, hit the alert notification bell, and if you can, please share this to your social media. That's how we can continue to make a difference. Now, on with number one on our list. The church needs you more than you need it. Without your money, attendance, and loyalty, the church ceases to exist. It tells you that you need it for morality, purpose, and salvation. The truth is, the church is dependent on you, not the other way around. And once you realize that, you're free. At the end of the day, church isn't about truth. It's about control. Pastors won't admit that because their entire livelihood depends on people staying in the system. But you don't have to. You can think for yourself. You can walk away. And when you do, you'll realize you never needed the church to begin with. The minute you say, actually, I'm good without Sunday morning guilt trips and enforced tithes, is the minute you discover a whole world of authenticity, autonomy, and agency. It's like discovering you had wings for the whole time, but they were folded under a pew. Christians, have you ever wondered why so many pastors end up becoming atheists? Click here to watch my Bible study with the next pastor series. And if you're interested in the most recent video I did about the 10 lies I told as a pastor, you can click down here to watch that video. Thank you for hanging out with me. Until next time, keep rising.